So we picked the earliest we've ever picked this season. That's why you can actually see. You don't always see sumos before Christmas.
That's what I was saying. I don't remember
Yep.
them being in the stores.
Yeah, it was
yet.
always January. I saw
Right.
in stores.
Yeah, and we tell people the sumo season starts in January or sometimes February. There's been years where it's like late January, early February by the time it gets out. This was an early year. The sugar was really high. We had an excellent summer for color and sugar, but a terrible year for size. So the sumos are everywhere. The sumos are smaller this year. And
So they're smaller due to the environmental factors.
yeah, and we don't always know exactly why. When we have small fruit here, we're always kicking ourselves that we didn't farm it right. But it was small fruit everywhere.
It could just be an off year, right?
Yeah, and it can be a complete off year. Last year, I was calling them Cthulhu, but the little navel here was popping out the bottom.
Yeah.
And you'd see like these tendrils coming out, and it would literally look like tentacles coming out the bottom. You'd have 5 or 6 of them just puking out.
But that didn't happen to any this year.
I haven't seen one like that this year.
Because I haven't seen one either.
Maybe 10% of the fruit was like that last year.
Wow.
Yeah. And there are other aberrations that we see. Things like there's some distinctive marks you might see one year that you've never seen on a different year. And then, not every sumo has a navel on it, actually, which is pretty interesting. So this is a sumo. This is the same exact variety on the same exact tree. I'll get you two closer to each other. Yeah. See, one's got a navel, one doesn't. It's not going to affect the flavor positively in one way or the other. It's just, this has to do with the temperature and the humidity and the conditions at the time of bud. And so you'll notice this one's smooth and this one's rough.
Yeah.
Some years, like last year, all of our smooth fruit never sugared up.
Oh, okay.
I think that had something to do with the rain, and we had a really weird first and second bloom last year. The temperatures were not very high. The temperature differential was not very high. So you want, cold and warm. Higher temperature differential tends to give you a nice lumpier looking sumo that sugars up better.
So you would want it to go from like 50 to 75 degrees in a day.
Yeah. If you have a 25-degree temperature swing, that would be great. If you have a 10-degree temperature swing, you're probably going to get a lot of smooth fruit and maybe even a lot of small fruit.
But would it affect the flavor or just the smoothness?
It'll absolutely affect the flavor.
It can't affect the flavor, okay.
Because growing conditions are different in Japan, they want the smooth fruit there because the smooth fruit sweetens up better there. Our rougher fruit tends to sweeten up better. Okay. But it could depend on the year, and it could depend on the tree, and it could depend on the piece of fruit. So it's not a guarantee that if I pick a smooth one and a rough one, which one's going to be sweeter.
Okay.
But last year, almost all of our smooth ones were not sweet. And almost all of our rough ones were sweet. But I'd say as far as the sweetness goes, if we held these till we normally pick, these would probably be at least 1 or 2 bricks higher than last year. And that's why we were able to pick before Christmas.
Okay.
So when they harvest these, they actually they don't do the individual squeezer like you've got, but they'll take 25 fruit so that they're getting more of an average, and they'll take it from different parts in the grove. And then they'll do a test, and they won't let you test unless your average is above 14.
Wow.
So you don't get to harvest until you're above 14.
So there's a minimum bricks level required for harvest.
Yeah, there's a minimum bricks level required for harvest.
Wow. Too bad they don't do that for dragon fruit.
Well, I think that could be, with dragon fruit, that could be a branding issue because Sumo is a brand. It's not a variety. Mm. And so because they work really hard on quality and it's a really tight-knit group, they have the control to say, no, I'm not going to sell your fruit because it's not good enough. You don't necessarily have that with contracted navels or Valencias. If you're under contract with somebody, they got to try to sell your fruit. Whereas with Sumos, we want every time somebody puts one in their mouth that it's a delicious piece.
Yeah, it's sort of, I hate to say like In-N-Out, where you go to any In-N-Out, you know what you're going to get.
Consistent.
Consistent product. And so since you guys have these higher standards, that's why we're getting a higher quality fruit.
Yeah, and so you won't necessarily see everybody fertigating exactly like we do, but you will see everybody injecting fertilizer multiple times a year at the right time.
Okay.
So there is a program, it's a proprietary program, and it tells you what time of the year to put on how many pounds of different things. I can't go into all that, but if you ever become a sumo farmer, you would get that packet of information.
Okay.
And you'd talk to other sumo farmers and learn how to sort of finesse that.
Be able to collaborate and fine-tune those ratios.
Yep,
okay.
Exactly.
Who actually coined the name Sumocitrus?
So when that was the company that my father was working for when they started. They basically they did some focus group stuff down in LA, and they learned that every citrus that has a 2-syllable name sells better.
Oh, shit.
So like a sweetie or
Wow.
a cutie or a
Sumo.
halo.
So it's all down to syllables.
So yeah, it was actually a syllable thing. And then
Two
Sumos were
syllables.
just. They also found one of the things that's very fascinating about this variety is it was strictly a Japanese variety for a long time, and people were really interested in Japanese culture and Japanese fruit as better than American fruit, but people are also really interested in local and fresh. So the draw of Sumo that people really bought into was Japanese style raised locally.
Okay.
So you see, like they wanted to sort of lean into the Japanese aspect of it. I think was part of the reason that Sumo became the
Kind
trade.
of like pay a little tribute to the culture too, I guess, right?
Yeah, well, and all the budwood there's 3 places to get budwood from for the variety, which is called Shiranui is the original name for it. But you can get it from Brazil, you can get it from China. If it's from Brazil, it's called Julietta's. There was a Japanese gentleman who went there in the 80s, I believe, and he brought the budwood over there and he started a Julietta program. There's the Decapon, which is the budwood from Japan, which is what the Sumo's based off of, and there's the Shiranui, which is the budwood from China.
China.
So if you were to get one of these trees at a nursery, it might say Decapon or Julietta or Shiranui.
And that
And those
is
are all the same. They're the same variety. They're not from the same mother tree.
So there could be subtle differences in the fruit,
Possibly.
hypothetically.
Yeah. I mean, there could be. Everything that's a Sumo citrus all comes from the same packing house, and it's all Decapon
Okay.
budwood. And anybody in the Sumo program would be buying their trees from Sumo or from AC Foods.
Which would be Decopon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which would be Decapons. So, as far as actual Sumos, they'll all be from the same 2 mother trees that originally came to the United States.
Okay.
In the late 90s probably, or early 2000s.
So about 20 years ago,
Yeah.
a little more.
So the first Sumo grove was planted in 2008.
Oh wait.
Yeah. There might have been a small planting before that, but the first year that people were out there planting was 2008. And then the first harvest was 2011 was like a small sort of preview harvest, and then 2012 was the first, 2011 was the first commercial harvest. And then,
Okay.
so in year 2, you can kind of get a few fruit off if you'd like to. But they actually, when you plant these trees as a baby, you actually rip all the fruit off of it all
Yeah,
the
you don't
time.
want it
No
to
fruit on it.
set its
because
mind to
you want it
growing.
again, channel the growth.
How old are these trees here?
So these trees are 2008.
So 08.
Yeah. And we're
So 14
learning.
years old.
We don't know how long a Sumo tree will last if it's maintained properly. And
Like
so-
its final old age. You don't know.
Yeah, these guys may actually already be past their prime. We're going to do some really
Oh.
experimental pruning on them this year to see if we can revive them, because we really didn't get as good quality out of this block as we have in the past.
Do you know the
But
average?
why? I mean, no offense. These fruit look beautiful. So how
Well, they're-
you expected more
I
from
mean,
this?
yes. We
Why
expected-
bigger? They should have been bigger.
They're tiny. Like all this fruit is tiny to me. This is
Okay.
this is an 8, or this is maybe even a 9. These are not good. We want this should be a small piece of fruit. Right now
Okay.
it looks like a big piece of fruit.
Yes.
We want these big ones like this. Like this guy right here. I want every fruit
That's
on my tree to
ideal.
look like that.
Okay.
Or bigger even. They do get bigger than that.
Yeah, I saw some big ones earlier.
Do you know what the average age of like a general orange tree is? Like what's like the growing?
Navel trees will stay in the ground for as long as you're making money off of them. Really, I mean, there's 100-year-old navels out there.
Oh,
Some
wow,
of the
okay.
Alpine Washingtons have been around for a long time.
Wow.
Man, that's good.
That's not common because a lot of the older trees weren't done on rootstocks.
What? They were just grown from seed?
I'm not sure exactly
just
how it used
grafted
to
to
work,
different
or if they
ones?
were if they're grafted into different things. So all citrus is actually grown from a seed. You start with a seedling and a scion,
Uh huh.
and then you bud it on. But they didn't have specialty rootstocks, a lot of it was just sour root, which is a really old rootstock that's really susceptible to disease.
Yes, that's
Makes-
a bad one, right?
Makes good fruit, but it's susceptible to disease.